Hello. Welcome back, friend. Let's catch people up on where we've been. Hi, everyone. We just got back from Detroit. We went to Detroit for Abdulpalooza.
Abdulpalooza? Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, that's what we're calling it.
Yes, yes.
Mishala. That was very wild. It feels like 7 days was crammed into 2, 3. I don't even know how long. Yeah, something like that. It was really fun, but we are exhausted. So we were at Abdul El-Sayed's election night watch party. Before that, we went canvassing. We there was an event at a church with like tons of people. There was a lot. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of energy, but I think it's, like, also exhausting to realize, like, "Oh, now we have to fight Mike Rogers."
Yeah, now we have to find Mike Rogers. We
Whew!
have a bunch of it's like not good faith actors. Like I don't
Oh,
even know
so
that
many bad faith actors.
it's like that now it's like they're willing to like really cheat to win, you know?
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
not like bad at cheating.
Well, it's not even Mike Rogers that we're fighting. It's like we're seeing so much of the center being like, "Okay, well, is he gonna do this now?" Like, they're trying to basically turn him into a moderate candidate, which it's like, that's not how he won. We can get into all of this later, but what do you wanna say?
I hate technology. It's part of the
Mhm.
reason why I'm glad we have Sean coming on to talk about this because he he talks about technology and how the government can not suck but chooses to suck. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's pretty cool that we have access to guests like that, and so we don't have to. I don't have to read about it and understand it poorly and try and explain it to people. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Obviously, I was like really glad that Abdul won. I was also I was hoping that he won by more of a definitive margin, but I also kind of told everybody when I got there that polling is when I went to the lander thing, when we went to the lander thing, somebody was like, "Oh, Daria Louisa Chevalier only has a 35% chance to win on
Mhm.
Polymarket." And I was like, so I was just thinking of everything like cards. Like
Mhm.
when I used to play cards, like a 35% is like losing to a flush. And I told somebody, I was like, I've lost to a lot of flushes in my day, like for a lot of money. So
Mhm.
she could just as easily win. And so like polling is kind of like and Polymarket and all this, like these predictors, these are not good things to make. They're not good things to react to. They're good things to
Mhm.
take in the information. And based on what you're hearing or the questions being asked, you can pivot strategy. But as a follower of politics, I find polls to be less about predicting the future and more about making me feel better about the uncertainty of the future. So whenever I see a poll, I'm always like, I'm just going to play like we're losing. We're down by 2 goals, you know? And like, I understand that like that's like a very layperson way of looking at it, but I don't do politics professionally. I just talk about it with people that do it professionally. But so I think for me, I'm really excited that he won, just even by 1 percentage point. I think it's incredible. Like they spent $60
Mhm.
million. Like it's
I
insane.
think it was, like, almost up to 80,000,000, with 40,000,000 of it being APAC, the rest being God knows who and what. It was really getting dicey, though. I mean, the polls were predicting, like, 15-point lead, and now I don't know, it was scary. I was like, "Oh my god, if he loses, what are we gonna do?"
I also think that we have this. Oh, and if you're here joining us right now, please be sure to say hello in the chat. My life is a mess right now, so everybody saying hi is really helpful to me. I just spilled water on my keyboard, so every
For a recap, for those who are just joining us, we just got back from Detroit from, canvassing for Abdul, going to some parties. We went to his election night party, talked to a lot of people in Detroit, and it was an experience. I think so. We're catching up on what else has been happening while we've been in Abdulpalooza world, and we're also catching up on, I think, some sleep and work. So if we're a little low energy, that's why we've been maxing our energy out to get this man to win his primary, and he won his primary. So here we are. But what you were saying about bad faith actors, I mean, even we're seeing so many op-eds coming out. There's so much like he needs to denounce Hassan Piker. The right is so upset and centrists are so obsessed with Hassan Piker, they drive people to him. This is like exactly what happened. Like, I'm like, how have they not learned this? Because this happened when Hassan first went to an event with him in March. He went from third place to first place instantly because Mallory McMorrow is the one who is like, he shouldn't be doing this. And it drove everyone to be like, well, what is this guy about? What's actually going on? What was actually said? And so I'm like, what are you guys are actually like, what are you doing? Why are we talking about Hassan Piker all the time? It's actually like he's one person with a stream. You can mute him, you can block him, you can scroll past people who are talking about him. Like I'm so like it is my entire feed. Is he gonna disavow Hassan Piker?
So the thing that I find funny about public communications is how divorced it is from reality. And one thing that the Democratic Party does, and they could not do it, it's very simple, but they always do it. Like the Democratic establishment always says should, right? And I
Mm.
really am big on the literal meaning of words. And when you use the word could or would, could is about your ability. I could do this if, right? They're all conditional. It means that a condition has to be met in order for it to happen. So I would have done that. I would do that if money, or I could do that if I had the money. I should do that is not about the future, or it's not about ability, it's about judgment. And judgment is about values. When you say you shouldn't campaign with Hassan, what they're actually saying is that since we don't believe in Hassan, you aren't entitled to follow him or anything that he subscribes to. And then the Democratic Party simultaneously, the same people who say you shouldn't campaign with Hassan, then go on CNN and talk for 12 hours about how the Democratic Party is paternalistic and they sound like missionaries. They
Mhm.
talk to the working class. And it's like, it's because the entire construction of your criticism is rooted in being a bunch of snobs, because you use the word
Mhm.
should instead of like, this is how you could say it, right? If I were Abdul, I wouldn't campaign with Hassan if I wanted to win over moderate suburban voters.
But the thing is that they're all ignoring, like, strategically, it's stupid. This is why despite 70 million, almost 80 million in outside spending, 40 million of it being APAC, why he lost is because people are tired of the status quo. And the people who are demanding that he disavow Hassan Piker, and I have no opinion about Hassan. I think he's fine. I think he has mobilized a lot of young voters who have felt out of touch with politics. And I think that's important. And I also think that is his lane. We're not asking him to appeal to centrists. The people who are like, well, you need to disavow him. I'm like, no, no, no. If you're the centrists, you go talk to your community and figure out how you can get them in line. That's your fucking job. I'm not telling centrists what to do. I'm saying stay in your lane. Hassan Piker can stay in his lane. I'm staying in my lane. We have to focus on where we can build power, and we need to start learning how to actually build coalitions. If you're going to tell us it's a big tent, then it needs to be a big tent. I would prefer not to share a tent with genocide enablers. They can stay on the opposite side of the tent. I understand that right now, like we're fighting Trump. Like it's actually crazy. I'm like, you realize we're pissed off. We have to share a tent with you, and also like, fine, go vote Republican. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but like, don't say that the person who just was voted in to represent the people has to listen to you because you just threw $70 million fighting to maintain the status quo. And people are sick and tired of the status quo. So we're not doing status quo shit. We're not like doing this like electability thing and appeal to the moderates and appeal to the centrists. If you want him to win, you go organize your centrist people, go talk to your centrist people, tell them, like, don't worry about Hassan Piker. He's there to talk to the people who he can bring in. And you're here to talk to the people that you can bring in. And we are here to talk to the people we can bring in. But holy fucking shit. Stop with this like Hassan Piker shit. It's exhausting. It's crazy.
It's
I have to
but
have one of my kids' yogurt pouches. I haven't eaten yet.
you got to do it. Is the so yeah, I'm like kind of not surprised that the establishment is crashing out over this. I am surprised by the problem with the Democrats too, and I think about this is from like a gambling perspective, but like, or even from a screenwriting perspective. Like there's not, when you're reading your lines in a movie, you don't say, and then I walk over to the bar and order a drink. You just order a drink,
Hmm.
right? But the
Hmm.
Democrats are so obsessed with telegraphing all of their messaging. They're like, like they're always doing it on the deck. Like they're always talking about the strategy out loud so that the right can learn from it. But like, you notice how like the right doesn't have any internal dissension publicly?
Right. Right.
Uh,
No, we need to start like handling. They're literally giving the opposition talking points. I'm like, why are you publicly giving the opposition talking points? Go like talk to people privately.
yeah,
It's so
go private.
frustrating. You're literally doing the
Yes.
opposition's job. And another thing that is annoying is I like have been seeing people say like, "Oh, looks like the people who didn't vote blue no matter who are now telling us to vote blue. And I'm like, no, 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 no. The issue is that you all believe in vote blue no matter who. I don't think you need to vote blue no matter who. I'm like, I think that parties are stupid. But since you are the ones who have been holding everyone to vote blue no matter who, you're a hypocrite if you won't. I'm not saying that you need to. I'm saying live up to what you've been yelling at everyone else. Maybe you guys need to appeal to the left, not make the left appeal to like why the hypocrisy, the obsession? It's the self-centeredness. It is like what is it called? Dominant social theory. The people who are used to being in power are so afraid of what the world looks like sharing power because they really only see that as like if they have less, then people will do to them what they do to others. So they genuinely just don't know how to share power. And it's like, well, you're going to have to get over that because that's what democracy looks like, guys. Like, sorry, we need to be okay with pluralism. We need to be okay with populism because we need a big and strong enough coalition to fight back against MAGA.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, we need to fight back against MAGA, and we also need to
And then it's bigger than that, but they don't.
and then
What
yeah,
other, it's like we have to
but
share with
but
corporate Democrats right now, which is confusing as fuck to me too. There are so many fights to have. It's like, okay, we have to align with corporate Democrats to get Abdul in the seat because I just think Michigan, ugh, let's get rid of this guy. Bye. Ban user delete. Okay. What was I just saying? Okay. Like, this is where I earlier said Frederick Douglass said, like, I will unite with anyone to do right and I will unite with no one to do wrong. And this doesn't mean we have to unite with everybody all the time on everything. To unite to get Abdul into office is we all agree we're going to do what we have to do to get him into office. I'm not going to work with you on anything else, though. I don't
no,
agree with
yeah.
you on anything else, though. But like, if it is to do the right thing, we will be under the same, like, just stay in our fucking lanes to move the needle there. But I think that you guys do a lot of wrong on a lot of other things. So I'm not going to unite with you on those things. But yeah, I mean the center's crash out right now is like it's driving me insane. They need to like go read some actual books.
I think that they've read them. I just think that like Obama read Rules for Radicals. Everybody read it, and then it's like the Heritage Foundation guy. There's a reason why he learned what he did.
There's a reason
Oh,
he wrote two thesis his dissertations on African American studies. And oh my God, you're so right. It doesn't matter if they read it if they're just shitty people anyway. Okay. Sorry, centrists, if you're here, you can leave.
yeah, sorry, Century. Actually, not sorry anymore, though. I'm going to do our little introduction for our guest, very special guest. He works with organization called Demand Progress, which is one of the most interesting and, in my opinions, important organizations that is monitoring the intersection of technology and politics and surveillance and all of the horrible ways that our government and oligarchs are abusing their power in an effort to do worse and worse things. So make some noise for Sean Vitka. Sean, welcome to
Hello.
Party Crashers.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Sean, I met Sean because he was educating us on the FISA policy that needs to be extended in order for the government to commit warrantless surveillance on American citizens by way of federal agencies and the bipartisan support for that initiative. But Sean, just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about Demand Progress, the work you're doing there?
I run Demand Progress. We are an advocacy group. We have about 1 million members across the country. And thank you if you are on that list, because you are some of the most active in contacting Congress. And what I think is actually more fun is that layered on top of that is, I'm just going to say, I think some of the best advocacy work in Congress that is happening right now. And that relates certainly to FISA, but a million other things. And frankly, where I came into this, or when I joined the stream, you were, I think, saying fuck centrists and you can leave. And I am, not only am I here for that, I, you know, I, ca- I s- 15 years ago or so, I came to DC and I thought the way policy change happened was, I'm not sure I ever really believed in the center, but have an informed consensus opinion that everybody
Mhm.
will kind of collapse down to. And, I happen to now be a like living, breathing example of the opposite. There is no integrity in what that
Mhm.
process kicks out, and so I hope to be, without sounding too mad, somebody who can like, thanks. It's fucking
Yeah.
nuts. It's so bad. It's so
So
reliably
bad.
bad that
Yeah.
aiming for the center is, what sucks about it is that obviously I think most people's interest in that. It's hard to rebut. It's hard to say, don't. Oh, and there's an AI intelligence in the White House. Very strange. Sorry, I was reading the comments at the same time, which is something I probably have to avoid doing if I'm going to be on live streams, which I'm usually not. Anyway, no, I spent 10 years trying to convince people, why don't you just agree with us? This is demonstrably the case on any number of issues, including the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. And there's certainly room for like reasonable disagreement. But I've talked to like thousands of policymakers in one form or another, and the vast majority of good actors are not.
Thousands?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't mean the like members of Congress voting. I mean but if you include their staffs and things like that. I talked to a lot of
that's a lot
members
of
of
people,
Congress
though.
too.
I mean, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
team. There's no way that like Chuck Grassley's written a bill.
Can I cut in on like the idea of the center though? Because here's I think I just wanted while I'm remembering this. The thing about the center is because because they think of things in terms of left and right, and the center is where corporate power is concentrated. This is my theory.
That's
And
it.
so because
You nailed
that
it.
is where corporate power is, that is why they always want to appeal there. That doesn't mean it appeals broadly to everyone. So center doesn't represent everybody. It represents corporations, and that's because that's why they're doing this right and left thing instead of up and down.
Yeah.
Well,
I couldn't have said it better myself.
what did you? So you said that with the FISA thing, then
You're far away from your mic, buddy.
the FISA thing started making a pen holder, and I have these little ADHD hobbies that I do on stream, Sean, and this is my new project. I'm making a pen holder. It used to be an index card holder, but alas. So you said that you talked to 1,000 policymakers, and did you notice what Meg was saying is that they're like kind of just basically like kicking the can down the road long enough to make sure that the next earnings report isn't screwed up for their biggest donors?
There's a staggering amount of that. It kind of depends on which like tier of policy critter you're talking to. By the time you get to like congressional leadership critters, it is like that. It is there's no, this doesn't work, or we're going to consider this thing, and here's no roadmap to ever hold us accountable to that statement. And no, we're leadership. Of course, we cannot tell you more. We can't comment on an ongoing negotiation. And the short form is if they agree with you, they will tell you more. But it can take you 10 years. It took me almost 10 years to realize that not getting the yes is getting the no. And that's it.
That's the thing that pisses me off as a professional wrestling fan, is that it's so obvious to me that politics is not fixed, but it is scripted. So it's
No, I see it.
yeah, Chuck Schumer is just basically like, hey, this is what I do. I'm a foil to Lindsey Graham or whoever Lindsey Graham, whatever. I was going to say Mitch McConnell, but he is likely also dead. But I'm a foil to Josh Hawley. There we go. He's got some time. Yeah, but me and Josh, we hang out on the weekends. Like we go to cocktail bars in DuPont Circle, and it's totally cool. Like we play racquetball together. And now I'm like, dude, this is exactly like, except in professional wrestling, you couldn't even hang out with your fake enemies.
You have to stay very close to your microphone, just so you know.
You couldn't even be a professional wrestler. You couldn't even hang out with your enemies. Like Ric Flair got into a plane crash with a guy who wasn't one of his enemies in wrestling, and Ric Flair broke his back, and the guy in that plane crash was in the middle of the field where the plane crashed, and they were enemies in the ring. So that guy had to walk to a hospital because they couldn't be caught together. That's how committed they were to the bit. Meanwhile,
It's so much more committed than senators are.
no, I know. They're literally, Kirsten Gillibrand has a picture of Ted Cruz wearing a New York Knicks jersey, and she's like, "Oh, he's a good sport." It's like,
I mean, remember when Governor Whitmer was in Trump's office and then like covers her face with a folder? Like,
my God, dude.
I'm glad you raised Kirsten Gillibrand, by the way. Easily one of the worst Democrats in Congress. Unbelievable. What a
she's
clunker
horrible.
she is.
I mean,
Why
her and
is
Chuck
she-
Schumer
why
are
is
the
she
same
bad for
fucking
your stuff?
person.
Why is she bad for your stuff, Sean?
One, she
It's our stuff, but your focus.
So, well, Steve, it's funny. I bet there's more that we could talk about than FISA that we just haven't really cracked open. We had a fun memo that made some news 2 weeks ago about how not smart it is for the person who runs the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, aka the entity intended, like that is designed to retake the Senate for Dems, to also be on pushing a bill, the Clarity Act, that only exists to advance crypto industry interests. And two, she's got a 22-year-old kid who just got a $30 million investment on a $300 million valuation from the very same actors who would benefit if crypto passed. And by the way, By the way, it's kind of important that Democrats can run on anti-corruption and anti-corruption through your kids' weird crypto schemes, which of course is like Trump right now, a huge electoral liability. And it's almost like I mean, I have to admit, I've always thought the House was better than the Senate, and this is part of the reason why. But that's that's too flat. There are great senators, there are terrible representatives. But yeah, it's kind of a conspicuous problem that somebody seemed to need to point out to them that you shouldn't be so overtly corrupted by these corporate interests. And yeah. So if you didn't see that, it's she's got I don't really have any interest in knocking the kid, but what the fuck?
So so her kid is basically just doing like the Howard Lutnick, Trump Jr. Like it's just like it's like everything Democrats do. It's like they watch Republicans do it, and then 18 months later, or to 18 years later, they do the same thing except worse for a lot less money. Like they just do like.
Well, I don't want to say every Democrat. I don't want to say
Democrat,
not all Democrats, Steve. Not all Democrats.
But I'd say like all of the
politics.
senators, almost all of the senators. No, we have like Van Hollen's a good senator. I think we have a couple of good senators. But I also, like, my thing is always that those kinds of Democrats really should just like be Republicans, because then we can actually move the Republican Party like a little. Because I'm like, you're either, I think our party should be corporate or not corporate, instead of like, I don't like the ideology. I'm like you're everything that like everything is the same. It's just all the ideologies over there. You might as well just move the party, because this is crazy.
But then you might have to actually work hard to be elected in New York.
Yeah,
that's the
and that's
you can't work hard.
That's a senator's job.
But I mean, if you can get $70 million poured into your race, maybe. I mean,
I always say that it's like, they always like people. It's not LA for ugly people. It's LA for Model UN kids, because like you can tell how excited they are to like be like voting on stuff that they overtly benefit. Not they as an establishment career politicians, like they love the free haircuts and like the nice cutlery and getting to hang out in a room that like Theodore Roosevelt once like pissed in. Like they like it, and it's like it's the amount of like pomp and circumstance that like it's so it's kind of like intoxicating for them, and then they become so insulated from the consequences of their policies. And it's so for me, just like as a regular person who has somehow ended up, well, no, not somehow, it's because fascism took over. But then peeling back all the layers of this onion, you're just like, how do you really think I'm that stupid? I'm not smart, but I'm not that stupid. Like, and so I don't understand why they feel like they can treat us like children and we're not going to get upset.
There are there's like a spectrum of those thoughts that manifest like it would honestly, my brain might fry trying to think this out, but I will tell you with certainty that there are even senior staffers for some of these senior and very obviously like corrupted beyond recognition politicians who believe they are doing good work. And this is actually hard for me to challenge. I really care about. I love working more than anything else with true believers. I don't know what to say. Like give me somebody who believes what they are saying, and I will find a conversation to have. There are cynical ones who you can't do anything with, and there are cynical ones who agree with you, who at least you can get useful work done with. But the ones who think they are doing good work when they are really rat fucking the entire country is so hard to like. What is like? I mean, sorry, this is nobody else's problem who's watching this, but like, what the fuck is my job at that moment? I'm supposed to like reveal to you that your entire career is a lie. Like, sorry, it took you 30 years to find this out. But you know what always happens to those people? They always get a goddamn job in the crypto industry. Like that's that's how you know. And you watch that happen 10 times and you're like, I really gotta squish the next one who shows up and looks like this, right? Because he's definitely gonna end up working for a really bad person in 2 years.
And nothing makes you feel better during an existential crisis than making a ton of money and it's not it's all of this is strikingly human. That's what I find both infuriating and disappointing about politics, is that it's all very like, this is all human. It's just different scale, and it affects more people. Like, because unlike Hollywood, where all of this toxic craziness, including the cynicism and the true believers, exists, the consequences of politics are very, very real. Like, I always say that like doing somebody a favor in comedy is like you being the owner of the New York Yankees, and then me being your best friend, and you being like, oh yeah, I know that you love the Yankees, so you should take an at bat. Like, That's going to be very embarrassing for you as the owner, and it'll piss your fans off. And it's going to be very dangerous for me and embarrassing, because if I go up on stage and you get me an opportunity and I'm not, we're all screwed. The difference between that and politics is, like, I feel like in politics, this happens all the time. It's like you being the owner of an NFL football team and me being, you saying you can take a snap, and not only am I going to get CTE and end up dead, but the entire country does, because there are all these favors that happen and all of these consequences that end up having the externalities of, like, the insider Washington Beltway favor system they can be measured in bodies, like, literal, and, like, not to be like dramatic, but, like, yeah.
No, it's just
like,
quantifiably true.
Yeah, it's quantifiably, demonstrably true. But it's also human, right? It's like Kirsten Gillibrand's like, of course I want to give my kids a leg up. Right? Like, it's like,
As somebody with 2 children,
no, but I mean, I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do.
I want them to be good people.
Just don't also be in charge of negotiating the shitty crypto bill that only crypto people want. Like, it gets, again, the spectrum is staggering. Like, it's not that there aren't,
How is our
examples
economy even real anymore with, like,
Is it?
crypto
Is it?
and credit? I'm like, none of it, like GDP, like, none of it is actually real when you have trillionaires who are fucking, like, yeah. Anyways, I know we're here to talk about FISA.
I was sold on shoot the shit.
We are, like, very much like, we can shoot the shit, we can talk FISA, we can talk anything. I also, like, I have ADHD. I did take my Adderall, so I will focus in a second.
Can I just say something really quickly about, just to frame FISA and warrantless surveillance? I used to work on a TV show. It was a Dick Wolf show. It was a cop show. And one of our technical consultants was the only person in the state of Illinois with a Title III warrant certification. So, like, that means that he could go and basically break into a mobster's house and plant a warrant. And, like, that is, like, the highest form of, that was, like, the highest threshold. You had to go to a judge, you had to present a case, like, big 100 pages of, like, evidence, and say, like, these people were engaged in an ongoing conspiracy. So in order for me to, like, break into this guy's house, plant a microphone, and for it to be legal, that's what you had to do. Like, the threshold for that law was so big.
Yeah.
Now, it seems like everything that you're talking about, whenever we're in a room or whatever, you're saying that that's just basically writ large, like, the rule, not the exception. Like, you don't even have to prove it most of the time.
Well, yeah. Should I do a summary of FISA? Just
Please.
That'd be great. Yeah.
and I should probably jump in like 15 minutes or so if that's okay. But
Copy.
So one, Steve is right. There are existing, long-standing, generations-old, you could think of them as implementations of the Fourth Amendment that are the way that we are all, kind of raised, I think, to understand privacy in the United States. The most commonly discussed delineation is if it's the content of your communication or if it's your property. Those are basically the two spaces, or your body, including, your property, including your body. If the government wants to screw with that, they need a judge to say there's probable cause for them to do it. So Title III is part of the Wiretap Act. There's Title I, Title III, and a couple of other titles of note, but they are the show probable cause. Here's the procedure. It's what the Wiretap Act becomes relevant to all things FISA because if the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which was passed in 1978 on the other side of wrongful spying on Martin Luther King Jr., among other people, that if the government accessed the communications the way it wanted to, the people who were providing that access would be violating the Wiretap Act. They'd be breaking the law. They're legally not allowed, not just under the Fourth Amendment, the government's not allowed to take it, but the companies are legally liable. You could sue them if they were giving it incorrectly or, in violation of the Wiretap Act. In 2001, everybody, in 2001, 9/11 happens, and we start to see, the Patriot Act and a million other things. Fun story, the executive branch under Bush started the modern mass surveillance state before the Patriot Act even passed. The second after 9/11 happened, not literally the second, but within a day, the Bush, Dick Cheney had, the NSA in the White House and said, you're just going to do this as much as possible in as many directions as possible. And they were very clearly violating all sorts of laws, including the Fourth Amendment. And it would take 6 or 7 years for that to come out. And that was a colossal problem. And then in 2006, we started to get leaks about these operations. By the way, that's actually a long time later, right? 5 years later. And they just managed to get away with this shit for a long time. And it wasn't that they were acquiring every communication, but they were clearly acquiring Americans' communications on U.S. soil, classic content of communication, Fourth Amendment protected, Wiretap Act protected, and that was actually a pretty narrow slice of what they were doing as well. And this all operated under a program called Stellar Wind. And so then by 2006, 2007, you start to get leaks, you start to get whistleblowers. They start internally. They go to their overseers. They get ignored. There's a guy named Thomas Drake, Bill Biddy, both of whom are still alive, and they end up getting desperate because the internal oversight is not functioning at all for them. They go to the House Permanent. This is my favorite little anecdote that I don't think almost nobody knows, because you got to read secret declassified Inspector General reports to find out. So these guys go to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and Steve at least can guess how I feel about HPSI, as I call them, the worst legislating body in the country. And they go to one of the staffers, a Republican staffer. Her name is Diane Roark, and they say, "Hey, we're pretty sure the NSA is breaking the law here, like a lot and bad, and for a long time." And Diane Roark agrees, and she goes to the committee leadership. She says, "We've got a real problem here," and they say, "Don't talk about it. Shut up and never bring it up again." And she goes subsequently to. Sorry, Steve, you want to get it?
No, my jaw dropped.
Oh.
On camera training. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Go on.
She goes to the most junior member of the committee. And I have a theory. I've never spoken to her. I don't know. She would end up leaving DC after this, and an indictment of the entire city, in my opinion. But she goes to the most junior member of the Intel committee and brings it to him. It says the same thing. He goes, "I'll look into it." He comes back later and he says, "Nothing to see here. Never hear about it again." And so Roark leaves. Now, again, this is all happening years before the public finds out about any of them. And what I find really astounding about this, my theory, my total headcanon here, but my theory on this is that she, as a competent staffer who understood the law and that this was clearly illegal stuff, went to the juniorest member of the Intelligence Committee, thinking maybe this is the least corrupted of these policymakers. Again, she's never said this. I've never spoken to her about it. I don't know. It would be a reasonable way to end up with the most junior member after the chair tells you to go pound sand. That guy's name was Richard Burr. Richard Burr, would later become the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And in fact, would leave the Senate in mild disgrace, although truly staggering context, which was that in March of 2020, as I was in the middle of a very serious fight over the reauthorization of the Patriot Act at that moment, told his wife to go to the ATM and cash out all the stocks. And it was not the first time he did it. And yes, March 2020, as in actually it was February 2020, right before COVID, which of course is information that he gets special access to as not only a member, but as the leader of the Senate Intelligence Committee. This is a deeply, deeply corrupted set of entities and overseers that I think people, it's hard to wrap your head around, and it's disturbing. Now, this is me, that I just jumped to 14-year timeline. Where does FISA come into this? Well, one, they were violating FISA at the time, because before 2001, FISA was relatively strong. And funny enough, you get all the way to 2006, and they're still violating FISA by operating Stellar Wind, because they're still acquiring U.S. person communications on U.S. soil. In 2008, they can tell the wheels are starting to come off of this. And so in 2008, there's a wild fight around what is called the FISA Amendments Act of 2008. And it was famous at the time because it gave legal immunity to companies who had been violating the law to comply with Stellar Wind. And this is how AT&T, which has never avoided surveillance, has always tried to, and the corporate power shows up here too, right? And it shows up and says this. Sorry, this is a long story, but I appreciate it.
This is a fascinating story.
This is it's
so
crazy.
And guess what? That itself, that we had this huge national fight that we lose, that our privacy objectively loses, where they get this legal immunity for these piece of shit fucking telcos who have one fucking job, by the way, which is to not do this. And then, and the immunity fight, I mean, they really want it. That's what they get out of it. But that's not actually quite what the government was getting out of it. What the government got out of it was Section 702. And Section 702 said you can acquire U.S. person, U.S. soil communications if you go through this kabuki theater set of procedures on the side. And I have spent a staggering amount of my career litigating in legislative context against the against this idea, which unfortunately is honestly, there are still legitimate constitutional challenges to it. But talk about
Mhm.
a system in decay. It is, this law has been the law for 18 years, 702, some version of it, and there are still questions, real questions, the big questions about whether it is even compliant with the Fourth Amendment that the Supreme Court still has not considered. 18 years.
This
And
is
so
so
Steve,
exhausting.
we meet on the eve of a fight, of a historic fight where the worst Democrats and the worst Republicans are conspiring together to make sure that this law, the one thing we got in this law, the one good thing about 702 is that there's an expiration, is that they have to go back to Congress and get it renewed every once in a while. And their perennial threat is that they'll make it permanent, by the way. And so they threaten this shows up at some point in the fight every goddamn time.
Well, and it's so funny because it's not funny. I mean, I'm a comedian, so I choose to make things that are this infuriating and banal funny. But, when Donald Trump basically refused to sign the War Powers Resolution or one of the resolutions and basically said, no, he refused to sign a FISA extent or something unless they pass the SAVE Act. And
Trump.
Yeah,
threatened
Trump.
to.
Yeah, he threatened to. And
He'd be so lucky as to get FISA through the fucking Congress at this point.
Well, no. Well, the funny thing is, though, is that Chuck Schumer did this like national security ransom note on the Senate floor, which was I had talked about at the time, and it was added like a 19 like the Lindbergh baby, like which just shows you Chuck Schumer does not understand modern communications because like no like person under the age of 65 knows what a ransom note looked like in like the Maltese Falcon or whatever. But one of the things it said there in plain English is like no FISA, and it was like Chuck Schumer was like trying to hit Trump on this thing where it's like
No, he was saying that Trump is trying to stop FISA as the like FISA is a good like we need to get
no, that's
like,
what I
this
mean.
done, right?
I was incredulous. Chuck Schumer was arguing that Trump stopping FISA, that FISA being stopped was a bad thing. And
Let me find the picture.
It's so like, and I'm like, I know what FISA is. I was like, Chuck Schumer, this playbook doesn't work. You're using a 1940s ransom note, which means that no one's going to see it, but you're also doing it in 2026 when everybody can Google what FISA is, and like they can hear a million podcasts.
Really unpopular. Nobody wants this shit. Sorry, guys.
So like this thing that's kind of like Congress is in recess right now, and kind of keeping in the tradition of professional wrestling, I always like to build to the main event. So this main event we have coming up in September when Congress is back in session is we have this. They didn't do Bill Pulte, who's a grifter from Twitter, right? He was like giving people $5 to follow him, and then he'd sell their data for 10 or something. But they got this other guy, Jim Clayton, who it seems like Mark Warner and there we go. Trump's hostage note for national security.
I will not approve FISA. We are canceling the Senate hearing. He went onto like the committee floor with this on his background. He was standing on the committee floor, like doing this whole, theatrical speech with this as his background. And it's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Like, what are you doing?
I have a, let me give you a story before I have to sign off. This is my least favorite Chuck Schumer story, and which is saying something. So actually, sorry, is there room for good news on this stream?
Yeah, of course.
All right, let me give you a dose of good news. Let me give you a dose of good news before I give you off the worst fucking Chuck Schumer story. So, firstly, thanks to everybody who gave a shit about FISA, by the way, 702 has expired for the first time in its 18-year existence.
Much to Chuck's dismay.
Oh, yeah. We're 6 days from 2 months, Steve. We're
nice.
Now, nobody is. It's like hard to track for reasons that we should get into it another time, maybe. But because 702 is still operating until March because there are judicial certifications that run for an entire year, and so this continues, and there will be another fight before that timeline runs up. And yes, there is a real Sisyphus part of my brain that is getting swole as fuck. But in any event, the more important point is that people demanding privacy protections have never demonstrated this much political power, even after Snowden. That does mean something. Wow. That does mean something. Okay, now putting that to the side, let me get to this terrible, terrible story. So the FISA fight has also become an opportunity for privacy advocates, including Demand Progress, to fight for what we call closing the data broker loophole. Now, the data broker loophole is we just talked about. The government's not supposed to have your communications. We also have some not terrible Supreme Court rulings, including one recently, Shottree, where even your location held by third parties is supposed to be protected by the Fourth Amendment, which of course it is. Of course it is. But I didn't expect the Supreme Court to rule as favorably as they did. Who knows if they're going to comply with the Supreme Court, but it is probably plausibly the best decision we've gotten from the Supreme Court lately. But you can buy everybody's location very easily for pennies. And so we call this the data broker loophole. You can buy where people are, what their political views are, who they donate to, who they date, where they sleep, what websites they go to. Data brokers, unfortunately, are everywhere. And we think, the privacy advocates think, well, the government should get a warrant, because you need a warrant to do this on your own. If you just buy somebody else's doing it for you, then that's not good. Go through some kind of court process, go through judicial review. Otherwise, you got a problem. And neat, Greg Casar just introduced a new bill on AI. Anyway, so that is the data broker loophole. We got that bill, and this is a hard bill to move. Let me tell you, these are not the easy fights in Congress. There are some easy fights in Congress. It is not the privacy ones. We got the Fourth Amendment is not for sale act, a bipartisan, bicameral bill through the House in 2024. By the skin of our teeth, by the way, 219 votes, I believe, was the number, which is 218 is a majority. So not a lot of margin there. Now, Donald Trump wins re-election in 2024, right? When we enter lame duck, which is to say after Donald Trump wins, but before Congress and the administration have switched over, so November, December, a little bit of January, Chuck Schumer has precisely two bills that he can move in November or December or January. And this is in the context of knowing that Donald Trump is going to become president again. One is the Press Act, which is another good privacy bill we work on, which protects press sources with like some amount of judicial review and subpoenas. And the other is the Fourth Amendment is not for sale act. And Chuck Schumer didn't bring either for a vote. As Senate Majority Leader, he didn't even bring them for a fucking vote. I find this to be one of the most contemptible things I've ever experienced or witnessed in my life. I was talking to a Senate staffer in December trying to get this moving, and I nearly lost my shit in a large setting. And one of these staffers, a good one, by the way, said, "You don't understand. It's really hard to get senators to work on a Friday." And I got to watch as Chuck Schumer refused to bring either of these important bills that would have done real shit to have stopped this administration from being as bad as it currently is. And right now, ICE uses data broker shit for immigration enforcement. Right fucking now. I gotta go because I'm gonna start saying things I can't say.
Okay, well, let's have you on again for sure soon so you can give us more, because this is fascinating and I think not talked about enough. Like, I wish I understood more about this lane as well.
And we have a really talented editor who is gonna, cut these videos up to make sure that we can get this as much of this information out as possible. Is there a good place that we can follow your work or Demand Progress's work just to stay up on all this stuff?
Yeah, please do. We're not huge content creators, I hate to say, but we are always grateful for the chance to talk to both of you on Twitter, Demand Progress, et cetera, et cetera. Join the list, though. Honestly, we do, I think, the best in the business in terms of like keeping the folks that do follow our work through the list, through the activation. Like, if we are asking you to call members of Congress, we have a real strategic goal in mind. We are not wasting your time. So that's a big ask. I don't mean to like make it sound easy. And then otherwise, I don't know. I hope to come back.
But it is easy, actually. Calling your members of Congress is the easiest thing that you can do. If you're not doing anything else, please. Regardless, just call them. Just call them.
Congress pretending to be the member of Congress. It's anybody can do it if they put their minds to it. No,
you know what'd be fun? Maybe everybody should ask every Democrat whether they think Chuck Schumer should be Senate Majority Leader or Minority Leader next year.
That is an excellent.
Let's get everybody on record.
I actually like that. That's a fun game.
If they won't tell you what you're asking, then the answer is what you don't want them to say, right? So,
yes, exactly. That's the takeaway here. If it's not yes, it's no. If they're like, oh, let me think about it, they're usually stalling. Well, we're definitely going to blast. We'll definitely have a link to the list. You have an open invitation to pop on anytime. We're here every day, and I have a lot more time than Meg because she's super talented. So I hop on at night every once in a while. So just we're always happy to do a special stream for our friends. You're doing great work. We're really grateful you joined us, though, because this is fascinating, important stuff that, I mean, I wouldn't know about any of this stuff. So thanks, bro. Thanks for the work you're doing, too.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thanks everybody for listening. And yeah, we're going to keep at it. We got another few years to survive here. So
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Take care.
Bye.
That was awesome. Sean is so great.
Yeah, I know he's great.
Like he's an inspiration too, because like you can tell he's been doing this stuff for a minute, and he's still like so like
He's keeping the fight.
I wanted to ask him what his self-care routine is, because like he's it's pretty impressive. I'm actually gonna put the demand progress list. I'm gonna look it up, but yeah. So that's crazy though. That's so dude. They're so
I know.
lame, man. They're
I
so
know.
Meg. You know what I'm gonna say right now? Profoundly
for it.
uncool.
Profoundly uncool. I have to pee. I'll be right back, but I can hear you. If you want to,
Good.
I don't know, tell people about our weekend.
Oh yeah. Well, we had a great trip to. I'm gonna just go over some highlights from our trip. I basically. So for those of you, hey, say hi to Chicago Bish. She said hi, chat. Hey, guess what? A lot of independent voters don't like Republicans or Democrats. Yeah. Talk about Detroit. Okay, we'll talk about Detroit. Meg and I went to Detroit. We saw one of the greatest political talents of our generation win an election against a establishment candidate that was actually backed by Chuck Schumer, and it was pretty fulfilling. We had a really great time. I'm going to pull up some pictures. Meg had some cocktails and did a little dance, which was very fun. I have to find my it's in my pictures because I posted it on my stories. But at one point, Meg decided that we were going to go to the hotel and have a beer, which we did. And then she did this little dance. Let me see if I can find it. It's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, we had a good time. Obviously, the race was a lot tighter than we had all initially thought. But ultimately, it broke our way, which is really all that matters, especially because they spent $70 million, which really drove me nuts about the people that were covering this, is that they're like, oh, well, it wasn't as close as they thought it would be. Here's the Meg video that was really funny. You saw her dance video. It was awesome. But yeah, no, we had a good time. I saw Abdul shortly after his win was announced. And, I told him that
Oh, he's such a real one. He's really such a real one. He was hanging out. His team was like stationed in our hotel lobby because even after NBC called it, he was like, I don't believe it until AP calls it. So he's like, don't congratulate me yet. Like, gotta wait.
Yeah. But
there's our friend Chris. We should bring him back.
Oh, there's our friend Chris. Yeah. Chris V. I'm trying to find Meg
It's on my feed.
Yeah, this kind of sums up the whole weekend though. This little video here. We were not
I was on like a Kirk Franklin kick.
Yeah,
if anyone knows Kirk Franklin.
You got a witness.
Put your hands together. Got a witness up in here.
You got a lot of witnesses, Meg. That was a good.
I did get some witnesses up in there.
That was one of the great moments in American history. So the next thing we got to do is we have to fight Mike Rogers, and we kind of have to just like weather out this backlash from the elite Democratic commentariat that are freaking out about all this. Like, you're going to be seeing a lot of this shit. I put it on my establishment Democrat consultant account. This is
Democrat. I'll switch over. And if El-Sayed wins, I will not vote Democrat. I'll switch over and I'll vote for a candidate with character, whoever that might be.
What about him? I want to know what about him lacks character. Like, none of them can explain what any of it means. But the Wall Street Journal had an op-ed that came out today, and the title was that every Democrat needs to denounce Abdul El-Sayed for anti-Semitism or risk what happens when you stay quiet. And they cannot say what do they mean when they say he's anti-Semitic. They just mean that he
address Jewish voters. Like, every time I've seen him speak in public, he always goes out of his way to explain that.
And his messaging has been consistent. Like, they're saying after his victory speech the next day, they're like, oh, now he's switching up messaging. But no, he's consistently said that he grew up in a very Jewish community. He grew up attending, with a lot of Jewish friends. He loves the Jewish faith. He believes that him, as a man who practices Islam, knows what it's like to be discriminated against because of your religion. And he shares that with his Jewish brothers and sisters, and he's about protecting all children, our children, and that conflating the actions of a government is not safe for Jewish people. That has very consistently been his message. So I don't know what they mean when they say that he is anti-Semitic. It's crazy.
It's pretty wild. It's really disappointing, and it's
Closer to your mic.
the scope of the argument is it's so stupid.
Do you want to scroll what else Democratic consultant has?
Yeah.
pulled up?
So I said for this one, I said this guy's a great actor. Did a Deloitte ad and was Scott Kahn's body double on Hawaii 5-0. Perfect suburban swing voter for casting directors. Head in the office. We hung out with these guys over the weekend. They're the best. They will be guests on the pod or whatever this thing is someday soon. He said, my Senator Muslim, my Donovan McKinney, Will Lawrence is 6'5". Socialism is alive. I responded, Jesus fucking Christ. Someone check in on James Carville. I said last night was a huge inshallah for my guys at DTE. And then I just did this big no when it said APAC vanquished. Yeah, so it's kind of a good it's kind of a good moment to be progressive, especially because, you know, like, we don't get paid to support these candidates. Like, there's they can't afford
We
to.
volunteer.
Yeah.
Clear on that. We have been volunteering for Abdul's campaign since about March, and it is voluntarily. I don't want anyone to say we're paid shills because he doesn't take money from corporations. You know, when somebody who has $1 billion and is my governor reaches out asking for content, I'm not doing free content for a billionaire. But no, we are volunteers just as much as lots of other people are for these campaigns.
It's incredibly disappointing to, like, the whole reason we do this is because we want to fight back and not feel completely powerless. Like, Meg reminds me about pretty much everything. I would have missed our ride home if it were not for Meg. But the reason I got involved in doing all this stuff is because there are so many. Most of the great candidates are people that can't afford to pay. Like Cori Bush's campaign manager, I was at a fundraiser for Cori Bush, and she was saying, like, yeah, I don't have $1 billion for, like, she's like, we aren't getting money. Like, so I have to decide between giving gas cards to our volunteers or, buying mailers. Like, that's like the kind of decisions that they're making. And
meanwhile, they have like millions in spending up against them.
Yeah.
And are paying creators to talk shit. It's so
Yeah,
it's so
and they're
rigged.
paying.
It's so unfair.
It's super unfair. So, like, we're throwing our weight around where we can because, like, I'm not going to, there are things that I know how to do that other people don't. And there are things that Meg know how to do that people don't. And so, yeah, we volunteer our time. We volunteer our energy. And, shout out to the Syed team for always making creators feel welcomed and like a valuable member of the team. That's the other thing, is that there are a lot of members of Congress who are like, think that they're doing creators a favor by giving them an interview, but like simply not the case. Like, no one wants to see your Cory Booker interview, bro. Like, no, sorry, Cory. Like, we just don't give a shit. Like, you voted to ban TikTok.
Shannon wants to see it.
Shannon wants to see it. But, yeah, no. So there's a whole lot of stuff that people, there are a lot of creators that go after creators. And it's like, it's such bullshit, dude. Like, I'm not a scene kid, so I try to stay out of the drama. I think that if you have a problem with anybody on the internet, it's better to just directly message them, punch it up.
If it's even worth it. Because
it's even worth it.
Most of the time, it's probably not.
Yeah, most of the time, it's not worth it. Go outside and touch some grass. Trying to think if there's anything else today that I wanted to talk about. So Mitch McConnell is now home. I'm trying to think.
Allegedly.
Non-political that I have. The Cubs swept. Shout out to Josh the Progressive. He was happy about that. I'm sure Rajan's happy. Oh, I have a really cute picture I want to show the people though.
Show. Fun. I do love those.
Okay, this is me and Long Heater and Meg's phone. Can you see this? This is a little cat that our friend let us borrow. I needed an emotional support animal. So yeah, that is the tag for Michigan. It was a great time. And yeah, if you're Meg, do you have anything that you need to mention before you sign off that the people should know about?
If you are in Memphis, if you are in District 9, please get out and vote for Pearson. I wish I had more time to make content on Pearson, but otherwise, I hope that tomorrow I'm a little more awake and alive and that we will be ready for a good, solid, fun stream with y'all.
Awesome. Meg, you're the best.
You are too.
I will get my mic being the best. We're going to be on tomorrow, Chicago Bish, probably around.
So tomorrow, my kids are also staying with my mom, so I could do a later.
Let's do it later.
You
Because I
want
have
to do
an
like a
appointment.
happy hour drinks kind of thing later in the day?
Yeah, like 4. 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have an appointment at 2:30.
Also check in with Carlos to see if we're starting that up tomorrow.
Yeah, I told him I think we should hold off until he's settled. But yeah, we
Okay.
have another thing
Yeah.
that's coming up on Fridays. It's going to be a happy hour, but we'll do happy hour tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. See you all
4
there.
o'clock.
Central Time.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
All right. Thanks for coming by, y'all.
Take it easy. All right, you're stuck with me now. This is it. This is my time. The maniacs are running the asylum, and you know what time it is. It is Divorced Dad. It is Divorced Dad movie reviews, brought to you by your favorite, Steve Tapas. Today, we are discussing, by a special request from our editor, Chris, who made the very right assumption that Tombstone is a Divorced Dad classic. It is a Divorced Dad classic for many reasons, namely because, first of all, it's a movie about a bunch of dudes who put their emotions behind them and decide to sort things out with pew-pews. The other reason it's a Divorced Dad classic is because it is also the name of a very famous frozen pizza brand, Tombstone. So you can do a Tombstone night that first weekend when she's packed all your bags and she's living in the house that you paid for. You can do a Tombstone night. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie Tombstone, it is based on a true story about the very real Wyatt Earp, who was a famous lawman who was involved in a shootout at the OK Corral. And him and his brothers moved to Dodge City, and they wanted to just be, single dudes. I think Wyatt Earp actually was married, but are you really a divorced dad? You joke so much, I don't know what is real. No, I'm not a divorced dad. I'm a cat dad. I'm a single cat dad, but no, I'm not. I grew up in the presence of divorced dads. I'm a millennial, so I'm a single cat dad. Tombstone's great though. You can do Tombstone Pizza, Tombstone movie. You got Kurt Russell playing the main character, Wyatt Earp, decides to go to Dodge City. Of course, Chicago Bush. Yeah, cat dad is lo mejor. No, you don't have to apologize. You're good. So the Wyatt Earp moves to Dodge City. So if you want to get out of Dodge, that's the reason why, is because Wyatt Earp left. He got out of Dodge to go to Dodge because he wanted to start a casino. He wanted to make some money. He wanted to turn over a new leaf. So he went with his friends, his brothers. All of them have handlebar mustaches, which is a divorced dad classic facial outfit. They had their friend Doc Holliday with them, played by Val Kilmer. As you can see, he is covered with a thin layer of sweat. He is a philanderer. He is a compulsive gambler. He is the hero of the movie. Thus, he is the patron saint of divorced dads, one of the many. There is a point in the movie where Wyatt Earp and his crew are in a shootout with another crew. And somebody says to Doc Holliday, "Why are you doing this?" And Doc Holliday looks at that man and says, "Because Wyatt Earp is my friend." And he says, "Well, shit, Doc, I got a lot of friends." And Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer, said, "Well, I don't." And so you just got all these men that are showing up for all these other men, and the only way they know how to express their love for one another is hurting other men. That is the most divorced dad thing you could ever do. There's gambling. There's dancing women. There's the shootout at the OK Corral in a very unrealistic way that it didn't happen. There's a lot of little gun tricks that are also unrealistic. This is the kind of fantasy and spectacle and toxic masculinity that divorced dads need to attach themselves to in the wake of a life-changing event that could break them, but instead they choose to take the spaghetti that's been in their cupboard for 8 to 10 months and make some buttered noodles and pucker up and watch Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, and Sam Elliott take back Dodge City, Kansas. Because famous lawman with handlebar mustache, Kurt Russell, aka Wyatt Earp, has had enough of the bad guys. And that, folks, is why Tombstone is a divorced dad classic. This was not made in conjunction with Tombstone Pizza. So if I get a copyright DCMA strike, this is fair use. This is satire. But it is true, too. Divorced dad classic. So if you're going through a rough time right now and you need a movie to inspire you about what not to do, I would take a look at Tombstone. Although showing up for your friends is really cool. Don't forget, the guy from Terminator plays Johnny Ringo. He was still in his twink phase back then. That lasted quite long. I don't know what his skincare routine was, but he was a pretty boy for many, many years after 1985 Terminator. Don't know if Terminator's a divorce dad classic. It's got a strong female protagonist, typically not associated with divorce dad classics. But yeah, Tombstone. Highly sought after film in VHS and the divorced dad circles. There were a million of these in Blockbuster, obviously, until TNT bought the rights and started playing it back to back to back. So divorced dads didn't have to be kind to themselves, and they didn't have to be kind and rewind because Ted Turner's network took care of it for them. That is the divorced dad movie review of the day. We have them all the time. I also want to do a little show and tell. I'm making my little leather. I put my index cards in this pouch here, and then I have this little pen holder I'm doing. So we got that cooking. And yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now that's fairly positive. I haven't heard about it, but I'm sure it's out there. Me and Meg are pretty tired from our Detroit trip, but we did have a very good showing in our mom donification voting guide. So if you haven't joined our voting guide, be sure to check the link in our bio, and you can join there. We're going to have some clips posted from our conversation with Sean, who did an excellent job. And make sure to like, follow, subscribe. And if you are watching Chicago Bish, if you could do us one favor, send this stream and Twitch to one person, or send our YouTubes to one person. That makes a huge difference. It helps us. This will help my dream come true, which is being able to support myself 100% as a comedian and doing it while not selling out to fascists or corporations that are trying to undermine the integrity of everybody's well-being. The only way we can continue to fight back is if we have people that are willing to support. Our favorite creator we met in Detroit, Chicago Bish, man, we met so many great ones. Well, it's the second time I've met them, but the head in the office guys, if you don't support the head in the office guys, you definitely need to. We met, this guy's not a creator, but he is creative. That's Adam from Bold Progressives. He's cool. We met the Distill Social team. They were pretty awesome. This is Norris from them, Detroit, born and raised. They do a lot of local coverage in Michigan. This was like their Super Bowl. Head in the office, we got Jack Cocherella, who I'm sure you've seen on YouTube, the boy wonder. We also met Hunter's friend. We met, I kind of know these people just from various happenings. I hung out with Lysandra and our friend Kat's on a couch. I gave her my JD Vance picture, and then we got Josh here, the progressive. So yeah, we had a lot of good times, a lot of good people out there. We saw Lysandra, who's one of the funniest ladies on the internet. We also have Hunter Dunn was not there. He was not there. He was I think he had a wedding this weekend, but he was working remotely. Actually, funny story about Hunter is that while he was the person who ended up calling the result. Hunter sent me a signal at 2 o'clock in the morning and said that I was in a bar and our political director, a.k.a. Hunter Isn't Done, a.k.a. Boy Wonder, he is the Goodwill Hunting of politics. He's 23, 24. I found him at a protest and at the Capitol, and we kind of took him under our wing and started talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I like making videos and stuff. And so a push came to shove, and he helped design our mom donification voting guide. But yeah, Hunter obviously was keeping a close eye on the race because it's what he does. He was out at karaoke with friends, but he texted me at around 2 in the morning. Last call had been called. It was being poured. And he said, it's over. He won. Now, I was there with a lot of people who really knew their stuff. A lot of people who had information I couldn't have even gathered about how Michigan counted their votes and things like that. And Hunter, now it wasn't because Hunter made the call. Like, he didn't have any information no one else did. He just happened to be watching TV. But we were all basically like, we're not going to find out for another couple days. But then we turned on the TV. Kornacki called it for Abdul. The bar erupted in cheers. One of the better moments of my life. Watching Abdul El-Sayed win that primary, just knowing how hard each and every one of us volunteered. And I am saying volunteered because none of the creators that work for, we're not working for progressive candidates. We're doing this work because we care and we believe in this shit. So this, just like the fact that like we were all there and all of us had done so much, like what we could, because we knew he was the best shot of not only beating Donald Trump, but also getting people like material improvement to people's lives. Shout out to Abdul and his team and all the volunteers that they had at at the election night that we got to meet, and the canvassers, and content creation is really, really hard. And it is not as difficult as picking up the phone and running a phone bank, or volunteering to go hand out literature, walking around in the middle of the summer, which is what a lot of these people had been doing. So every campaign is beating Donald Trump's policies. Yeah, I mean, he's talking about the Senate. The Senate is where you beat Donald Trump. It's just hard for all of us to remember because there hasn't been any senators in the Democratic Party that have fought back in quite some time. So, yeah, I just think that it was a really fulfilling experience. I'm a comedian. I do political satire. I am not politics DC brained person. I try to make this as appealing as possible for all the audience, not just people who, listen to The Bulwark and Pod Save America and Majority Report. Those are all great shows. And, I happen to not subscribe to a lot of the politics on PSA and Bulwark, but they're against Trump. So I guess that's a start. But and they're good faith actors. But it was really cool to see progressives come together from across the country and see so many people who are not normally involved in politics volunteer for a candidate that they felt could actually make their lives better. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the general election and do what I can to help out. And you should do everything that you can to help out in the general election. But we still got a lot of great primaries coming up. So Francesca Hong is in Wisconsin next week. We have a Tennessee election today, which is very important. So there's a million things that you can do. We're sprinting to the finish line. So anyways, I'm glad it made you feel hopeful. It made me feel hopeful too. So that's our stream today. Thank you all for tuning in. It was a short one. It was a good one. Be sure to keep an eye out for our calls to action with Demand Progress. They do great work. Thanks again for Sean for coming out. We will be posting some clips soon. Share this with your friends. Like, follow, subscribe, whatever. Thank you all so much, Chicago Bish. You're the general of this army, and we love you. I'm taking care of myself.